It's Monday Night Sports Talk on the AirNetwork.net. Greg Banks live in the studio in Huntington, PA. Dave Shannon joining us tonight live from Altoona. And Dave, you have special guests as we kick things off for the big dance here and the NCAA brackets, which we'll talk about very shortly. Dave, who you got with us tonight?
Well, we have a special guest, and that, of course, is the head coach of the St. Francis University Red Flash, Rob Krimmel. Coach, glad to have you with us here tonight and talk about your guys. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's always good to hear your voice, Dave. I have fond memories of you calling out a couple made shots by Eric Taylor, or a rebound or two, or a jump shot by Umar Shannon. So it's always good to talk to you, Dave, especially about basketball.
Absolutely, and of course, you had a few three-pointers go in at the Gall Arena too. Well, one big thing we want to make note of, and that, of course, is the fact that Coach Krimmel is now 6th on the list of all-time wins for St. Francis University basketball, men's basketball head coaches, tied with Max, Dave McGarity. How's that feel? That's got to be a good feeling that you've, amassed that many wins now as a head coach.
Well, I have a lot of respect for Coach McGarity, and he's been very supportive of my time here at St. Francis, and he's obviously had a great career as a coach, and currently the head coach at Army for the women. And we try to take this thing one game at a time, and the opportunity to compete at the Division I level at a school that's as special as St. Francis means a lot. In the game of sports, as you know, Dave, in the game of basketball, your wins and losses and points are, oftentimes how a team is judged and how individual accomplishments are measured. It's a special group of kids and a great opportunity for us to use basketball to develop young men.
And I'll tell you, it's a credit to you guys, too, because of the amount, your graduation rate, and the way these young men turn out. And you had mentioned one of those guys, and he's not alone, but he always sticks out in my mind because of how tall he is. And that's Eric Taylor. And, of course, I sat there and did public address announcing at the Gall Arena for a lot of years, 30 years. And I, thoroughly enjoyed Eric and that group of guys when they were around. And to have the thing that impressed me over the course of time, and really when you come down to it, I consider myself a nobody when it comes to what goes on at St. Francis and everything. And Eric Taylor, every time he was back at St. Francis for an alumni weekend, or maybe he just came in to be there, because he liked coming back to Loretto. Every time, Eric Taylor would seek me out to talk to me for at least, 5 minutes. Wanted to know how I was doing and wanted to catch up, let me know what he was doing. And it's so great to see him there as one of your assistants and a big part of contributing to your success this year, too.
Absolutely. He's an unbelievable human being. He was a fantastic basketball player, but as good of a basketball player as he was, he's an even better person. And that's what we want from our guys. We want our guys to be great basketball players, and we challenge them to be great basketball players. But when they leave St. Francis, we want them to be even better people. And no better role model than Eric Taylor, to help these guys who come in as goofy freshmen and hopefully leave here ready to take on whatever life throws at them. But he's been an unbelievable representative of our university. He went on and had a long career professionally, played over 10 years over in Europe in different spots throughout the world, and has an opportunity now to come back and impact these current players and help shape and mold them into fine young men.
And, one of the things, by the way, our guest tonight is the head coach of the St. Francis University Red Flash. That, of course, is Rob Krimmel, and he's with the team in down south getting ready for their CIT. That's the College Insider Tournament, getting ready to take on Jacksonville in the first round of that tournament coming up tomorrow. But one of the things that Eric and I talked about when I visited a couple of Saturdays ago was the difficulty in getting some of the, and there's no guarantee that an inner city player is any better than a player that may be toiling at Bishop McCord or somewhere else. But let me tell you about some of the cities that are on the list of the men's basketball roster at St. Francis, and that includes Queens, New York, Charlotte, North Carolina, Glassboro, New Jersey, Pittsburgh, PA, a couple of players from there, and Houston, Texas. So it's not impossible to get those players that have abilities to come to St. Francis. I'm sure it's somewhat of a culture shock for them after they get there, but everyone seems to, just, and it's a credit to you guys, because that's something when you're out there, scouting and recruiting, you're having to take that into consideration when you want to talk to somebody. How are they going to adapt to life at St. Francis University? And you guys are doing a great job.
Oh, thank you, Dave. And so much of the recruiting game, whether you're at St. Francis or St. John's or Duke or Carolina, it's about fit. And everybody has their own niche and everybody has their own fit. And our staff has done a tremendous job of identifying kids from all parts of not only the country, but all parts of the world. We have a young man from Lithuania. We have a young man from Africa and a young man from Greece on our team. And so much of it comes down to fit and what we're looking for as a staff and as an institution, but also, what the young man's looking for. What are they trying to get out of their college experience? And, the recruiting game, you hear no a lot. You hear no, and it does. A lot of times it has to do with location or the size of the school, and that's fine. That's,
sure.
We understand that. Some people want a big school in the city, and we don't have that to offer. But we think what we have to offer is pretty special. It's pretty unique, and it's our job to go out and find those kids that are looking for, that same opportunity, that personalized education where you're coming in, you're going to be a part of a family, not only a basketball family, but the St. Francis University family. And, it's neat because you have kids from all over the world, and you have an opportunity to coach and get them to play towards a common goal. And the group of guys that we have on our roster right now is a lot of fun to coach for many different reasons, but mostly because they're great human beings. They're good players, but they're fantastic kids who have been raised by tremendous parents, and it's a lot of fun to be able to go into a locker room or come out of a practice. We had a great practice today, and we're down here in Jacksonville, Florida, and we just had a long day of flights and airports and buses, and you never know how the young group's going to respond. But we had probably one of our more spirited practices about 2 hours ago, and I'm anxious to see how these guys come out and respond tomorrow on the road and against a very good Jacksonville team to be able to play one more game this year.
Absolutely. Our guest tonight as we start Monday Night Sports Talk is the head coach of the St. Francis University Red Flash. That, of course, is Rob Krimmel. And, Rob, one of the things that, you're talking about playing on the road, your team ended up with a 500 mark at 16-16 for the season after the loss there at Mount St. Mary's in the NEC championship game. But, you were 8-6 at home, and you were 8-10 on the road. And I know you'd like to get that road record up a little bit more, but an 8-10 record on the road and 6 wins in conference play on the road. Not to mention the playoff victory there at Wagner, which I'm sure Keith Braxton is going to be reliving that moment, as we all did, thanks to ESPN. His shot at the end of the game to win that by 1 point.
If you had told me at the beginning of the year we would have had 8 wins with the 5th youngest team in Division I basketball on the road, I would have questioned your basketball knowledge, because it's not something that young teams typically are able to do. You look at more experienced teams that are able to win on the road, and for our guys to set a school record for Northeast Conference road wins certainly is a credit to their attention to detail and certainly their talent and their togetherness, because when you go on the road, it's the 16 or 17 guys that are wearing the uniform, the 4 or 5 coaches that are a part of it, and all the support staff. And these guys did a tremendous job of putting ourselves in a position. Even the games that we lost on the road, we were competitive.
You were close.
And that's a big step as we talk about developing and growing the program. It's one thing to win at home, and we were able to do that, especially late in the year. We hit a few bumps in the road in the middle of the year, but it's, you got to be able to win at home. And then the old saying, if you can split on the road, well, we did a little bit more than that this year. And, that's part of progress. And it's something that we've been able to do here the last couple of years, is win some games away from the friendly confines of the Gall Arena.
I'll tell you one thing. It was amazing. That basketball season is starting to come toward its end, but what a great weekend of basketball with all the conference championships that were going on and some of the upsets that occurred in the conference championships to watch. It was just a great weekend of basketball, and of course it's going to continue on. There you are at the College Insider Tournament, or the CIT. There's going to be the NIT, and then of course there's the NCAA brackets that'll be going on. So some of the best college basketball of the year is right in front of us, and sounds like your guys are ready to go. Let's talk about your guys this year. And I was there to watch the game, your final home game there at the Gall Arena, and see the ceremony for the seniors and all. But let's talk about guys. For example, Jamal King. Now, Jamal, when I saw that game that Saturday, he really didn't put up a lot of offensive numbers, but he seemed to get, he was like warming up as the game went along. But Jamal, in the game against Mount St. Mary's, in the championship game against the Mount, holy cow, what a game.
Yeah, he's the improvement that he made from his freshman year to his sophomore year. He was very deserving of, being the most improved player in the league. And the young man that won it from LIU was equally as deserving. But Jamal increased his point production, his assist production, and really stepped in and played the point guard position, one of the toughest positions on the court, and played it really well. He's a tough kid. He knows how to play. And, the Mount St. Mary's game, he got into a little bit of foul trouble, and that really hurt us offensively. And especially in the second half, having him, to control the ball is a comforting factor, a comforting thing for a coach, because he's a competitor and he's not afraid to take big shots and make plays. And his growth over the course of the last year has been tremendous. And, Umar Shannon has done a tremendous job with him also, just working with them, not just on the court, but how to think the game and, how to handle success and how to handle a tough loss or a poor performance. And so much of that growth was revealed in his play, especially in the championship game. And, we keep him out of foul trouble. It's a lot easier to play on the road when your point guard's on the court more than 22 minutes. But yeah, he's really grown up this year.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. Umar and Jamal have to be kindred spirits because now that you mentioned that he was working with them, and thinking back about watching Umar Shannon play at St. Francis University, there's some similarities between those two guys for sure. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say they both are. I think the biggest similarity is they're both competitors. They both want to win.
Yes.
And do whatever it takes. And that's a trait that, you want to have in your guards. You want to have it in all your players, but especially in your guards.
Yeah, no doubt. Another guy stepping up big time, Isaiah Blackman, just a sophomore out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Isaiah can, for a sophomore, he's a very confident player on the court.
Yeah, he came back. He had a knee injury last year, and he came back extremely well. And give credit to our trainers and the rehab people over at DeCepio, Mark Boland and his staff, and then Rich Brody, our trainer, and Chad Hutsko, our strength coach. To get him back in a position where he'd be able to compete this year. And he's a young man that plays with a level head and can really score the ball, and developed into a really good outside shooter. He led the conference in 3-point percentage this year. So, he's a kid that, especially in the league, can score the ball. And we watched his minutes early in the year, so he didn't play as much in the non-conference. But once we got the conference play, we were able to get him out there a little bit more, and he performed at a high level. Obviously, he's an all-conference kid for us, and as a sophomore, one of the best scorers in the league, and excited to see his growth over the course of the next 2 years.
Absolutely. And I don't want to skip over Keith Braxton, but I know I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Keith had a great season, and the game I watched there, your final home game, wow, he really impressed me. I just walked away saying, wow, what a player. And the other guy I want to get to, the guy that just blocked so many shots and really had the ESPN guys really excited. Your center, Josh Nebo, out of Houston, Texas. Wow, what a shot blocker, a scorer, a good defender. I mean, geez, Josh had himself a heck of a season. Another one of your sophomores.
Yeah, he did. And, last year as a freshman, he was able to, to play Robin to Ronnie Drinnan's Batman. Ronnie was our go-to guy, our all-conference guy, our double-double guy, and Josh was able to block shots and, was a threat for us offensively, but wasn't necessarily a go-to guy for us night in and night out. And we challenged him in the off-season to be that guy for us, and he really worked on his game and spent a lot of time, improving his offensive skill set, and it obviously showed in his production. I think his point production increased by 7 or 8 points this year, and defensively, he's obviously one of the best. He was named Defensive Player of the Year in the league and set the record for block shots in just 2 years. He broke Melvin Scott's career shot block record, and this year he broke the single season record and the single game record. So his ability to impact the game defensively is something he's done for 2 years now, and now at the same time he's able to make teams pay on the offensive end. He's really developed the ability to score around the basket and step out and shoot the basketball. And again, another young man, we're excited to see his growth as he continues to work on his game, and is a passionate guy. Every time we come out of a game and we're on the bus, that's what you want out of you guys. You want them to want to improve, to want to be better. So it's one thing to go out there and do the stuff on the court, but the stuff behind the scenes in the weight room and the training room and the film room, that's so much a big part of his development also.
No doubt. Our special guest as we start Monday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net is the head coach of the St. Francis University Red Flash, Rob Krimmel. He is in Florida getting ready to take on the Dolphins down in Jacksonville, and they're a member of the Atlantic Sun Conference. They went 17-15 this year, and they were the number 6 seed in the Sun Tournament. They fell to the number 3 seed, which was North Florida, in the quarterfinals there, and that's who you're taking on tomorrow night. What can you tell us about Jacksonville as you get ready to face them tomorrow night?
Well, they're it's really a tale of two rosters. Where we're the 5th youngest team in Division I basketball. They're the 2nd oldest. A roster of a lot of seniors and a couple juniors. So it'll be a good test for us just from a maturity standpoint. They've got some guys that have been around a lot of tight games and have won a lot of games in their time at Jacksonville, and it's a team that shoots the ball extremely well. They put 4 guys on the court that can really stretch the floor, and they utilize the 3-point shot as well as anybody in the country. They're shooting close to 40% from the 3-point line, and they're making about 10 threes a game. So, it'll be a challenge for us to get out and make sure that we can test their shooters. And, it's a dangerous team when you let them get running downhill and making threes. So we got to do a great job of, first of all, executing good offense. So they're not able to get out of transition, and then, make sure our principles are sound defensively to contest all of the shots.
All right. That is coming up tomorrow night. It's available on Facebook Live, is where you're going to be able to watch that. So, fans, if you're out there and you want to watch the St. Francis University Red Flash take on Jacksonville in the opening round of the CIT, and watch head coach Rob Krimmel and his great team of young men get ready to hopefully advance to the second round of that tournament. That's tomorrow night, and it'll be on Facebook Live, and your tip-off is 7 o'clock, right?
That is correct, Dave. Yes.
Best of luck, Coach. Best of luck.
Yes, and once again, hey, one last question. How did the chicken turn out last night?
You know what? Everybody, from what I understand, everybody survived. My family loves loves chicken, and it's hard to mess up. And I'm just excited to be down in Florida where I'm able to get some seafood.
Yes.
But I did. I managed to cook the chicken, and everybody survived, and we had a good meal last night.
All right.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Hey, best of luck tomorrow night. And it's always good to get caught up with you. And, all the best as things go on in a real positive direction for you and the St. Francis University men's basketball program. Once again, thanks, Coach.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Coach.
All right.
Rob Krimmel, head coach of St. Francis. Red Flash down in Jacksonville getting ready to take on the Dolphins. Dave, do you remember Artis Gilmore? Back when we were kids, Jacksonville emerged
he's going to be part of the coverage there on Facebook Live tomorrow night.
That should be an exciting game. We're looking forward to seeing that on Facebook Live. And it's nice to have the coach join us this evening here live on the airnetwork.net. It's Monday Night Sports Talk. Dave, it's just you and I tonight talking about, of course, the NCAA bracket. In addition to that, Pittsburgh Pirate baseball. We've got Penguins hockey. And we'll talk a little bit of high school sports. And I have some notes here from our friends Jimmy Ty and Chad, who wish they could be with us. But because of the impending storm, obviously a lot of folks are out doing what they have to do because they may not be able to get to work tomorrow. But we're here tonight. Let me ask you, as you were talking to the coach.
All I say is I have milk, bread, and toilet paper so I can eat and poop for the next couple of days.
There you go. And you can never eat enough. That's the way I look at it. And it never will run out. But listen, let's look at some of these schedules as Rob Krimmel talked about the upcoming game with Jacksonville tomorrow in that CIT tournament. They flew into Jacksonville earlier today. I don't know what that thing was. That must have been a side joke about that chicken, Dave, because you kind of threw me off guard there. But
when I was making the arrangements to talk to the coach on tonight's show, he was in the midst of he was cooking out. He had the grill out.
Oh, okay.
And it was like, God bless you, Rob. It's like 20 degrees out, and he was out there. They love their chicken off the Barbie.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
He was out taking care of it.
Nothing wrong with that in the wintertime. I know he won't be able to do that tomorrow, although he's down in Jacksonville, like he said. He'll be delighting in the seafood, and hopefully they continue on in that tournament. But let's talk a little bit about this tournament here, the NCAAs. You got Villanova, Kansas, UNC, and who am I forgetting there? The top four teams as we know them. Yeah, okay. Zaga, yeah, Gonzaga. And I got to believe, Dave, after almost 20 years of making appearances in this NCAA tournament, this might be the year for Gonzaga, although I see where the Las Vegas bookies are actually saying Duke could actually win all of this before it's all said and done. But here's the deal. We have these play-in games, and I wanted to make mention to the coach, Mount St. Mary's taking on New Orleans Privateers tomorrow at 6:40 in that game to see who gets to take on Villanova. And I just wanted to kind of get his
your reward.
Yeah, and I just wanted to know how he would handle Villanova had that been St. Francis defeating Mount St. Mary's in the NAC championship game last week. I don't know. I don't see a lot of hope in Mount St. Mary's, even though they're ranked, number 16, somewhere in there.
16,
yeah, okay. But anyhow, do you see a 16th seed maybe winning this whole thing?
No. As a matter of fact, they threw up some interesting stats during one of the sports centers on ESPN last night after the bracket was announced. And
right.
I always one of the things that I don't watch Sports Center so much anymore because they're so infatuated with the NBA, and I so could care less about the NBA.
That's only because they have the contract for them now. It used to be they could ignore them, and they ignore now the NHL because they don't have any of that contract. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's just how that works, but it's all politics. But nonetheless,
I did happen to, step in at a point where they did this little feature, and it told you about how lower seeds do in the historically in the NCAA tournament. Right. Never a 16 seed even make it, to like the Sweet 16. Okay, never made it that far. They've won in the round of 64, got into the round of 32, but never made it past that.
Yeah.
The best chance of teams based on, where they're set up as far as their seedings go is an 8 or a 7. with the opportunity to move on.
Right.
There are some 8s and 7s that have potential, but I just see as I look over the brackets. Okay, here's a 7.
Yeah.
South Carolina at 22-10. And South Carolina's kind of team that could maybe do something. But you know what the next game is going to be for South Carolina? If they beat Marquette, they're going to take on Duke.
Yeah.
Because Duke is playing Troy, and so South Carolina is going to be gone. On the 8th seed in the East bracket, it's Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Okay, they're probably going to defeat Virginia Tech, but guess who's next? Villanova.
Yeah.
So, and I'm assuming that Villanova gets by the winner of the Mount St. Mary's and New Orleans game. I look at the 7-8s, and boy, they have some tough sledding ahead of them. For example, here's Northwestern in the West.
Yeah. Northwestern,
an 8 seed, would end up taking on Gonzaga because the Zags are going to beat South Dakota State. Come on.
Yeah.
And the 7th seed is St. Mary's out of California.
Yeah.
And if they win their game, they're going to take on Arizona, who will beat North Dakota.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't see too many of these 7-8s moving on, in this tournament. The one that I give a snowball's chance to is Michigan. I think Michigan has the potential in the Midwest bracket to move out and maybe make it to the Sweet 16. If they do win their first game, then they'd probably be playing Louisville.
Yeah.
And then they would move on to the Sweet 16. And, they would probably at that point end up facing, let me see who comes out of that end.
I'm trying to read my bracket here.
They would probably end up taking on Oregon.
Okay.
In the Sweet 16, and I don't know.
Hey, man,
Michigan's got potential. I love the way they played in the Big Ten championship.
You know what? Those guys had a lot against them from the get-go because their plane went off the tarmac and off the runway. And they
actually discussed not going.
I know. And could you blame them? I mean, to go through such a harrowing experience. And then the one player decided to go down the chute, and I think he got his arm caught and got sliced up or his leg. They didn't have their uniforms, and I'm sure the coach, matter of fact, he said he had a vote. And I believe out of the starters, 4 of them said they wanted to play. The 5th one said he didn't want to. He was outvoted, so they decided to play in the tournament. And look at them; they came out on top, regardless of wearing that practice uniform or not. And now they're excited because they're going to the big dance. I mean, what can you say about Michigan? They're probably my sleeper because they look good in the Big Ten championship. They just look fresh, man. They really did. Look like they've got a momentum going. But I can't discount Kansas. I can't discount Villanova. Jay Wright's had them there before. Gonzaga, as I said, before 20 years. But listen, this could be their years. Now, let me ask you, Dave, real quick as we move through these brackets. Final 4 predictions, and that's what I wanted to ask you, Jimmy, and Chad. Chad, by the way, sent me his predictions tonight. He says Villanova, Gonzaga, Kansas, and UCLA, the Final 4 teams, with Villanova winning it again. What are your thoughts on this as we kind of predict and look out forward down the road? Who would be your Final 4 in this thing?
I'll go everywhere that Chad went, except I'm going to ride the Michigan bandwagon.
And you're not putting in UCLA? Who
I'm going to say that Michigan, no, because UCLA comes out of the South.
Okay.
So that would set up a UCLA and Michigan, a Final 4 matchup.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stick, I do like the Villanova-Gonzaga matchup.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm headed. I'm doing Michigan is going to be my dark horse, and they're going to take on UCLA.
Yeah.
And it's going to be Villanova and Gonzaga.
I don't know. I just have this feeling that Duke is going to be there in the Final 4 this year. I just have that feeling. It's a sneaky suspicion. But here again, and I didn't look at the brackets close enough really to see who might block them before the Final 4, but I got to go with Villanova, obviously. Gonzaga, I don't know. That's just a feeling. I think they'll be there this year. I'm kind of wavering on UCLA and Kansas. I've got to probably say Kansas will be there. And if I had to say it without really looking at these brackets, my heart is with Michigan this year because of all they've been through. and the fact that they just look like now they're on a run, and there's nothing going to stop these guys. They're bound, determined to make it happen.
And it's the same thing in the NCAA tournament like it is in the postseason for the NHL. It doesn't matter what your regular season was, whether you won the President's Trophy or, all of those records just seem to go completely out the window, and they certainly do here because you don't have the home road thing going on anymore. I mean, they generally try to schedule the top seeds in a bracket that's close to home, but it's never really home. And and I like Michigan's momentum at this point. And the other thing about Kansas, I remember watching a game that Kansas played.
Right.
And, geez, I forget who it was against, but the bottom line was that they were lucky to get away with the win in that particular game, and they did not impress me.
Right.
And Michigan, limited exposure. I saw probably parts of a couple of other games that Kansas played, but the one I saw showed me the weaknesses that Kansas had. And I think Michigan, if they continue on a roll, they're the team that could knock them out and then make it to the Final Four.
They could be the true sleeper in that. I want to kind of get Jimmy's impression on that, and I guess we could probably take a look at it better next week if we can get all the guys together because we've got quite a week to go through. Let me ask you this, Dave. When this comes on, probably, and I think I alluded to this on my show recently, when we watch this time of year, NCAAs, they're all over the place, CBS, True TV, TBS, TNT. I don't think ESPN has any of these games.
No, they have the NIT.
Yeah, it becomes such a drudgery to try to figure out who's who and where they're at. And, and then there's a lot of switching between the games. And, of course, as we get closer to the Final Four, we've got TBS running Villanova's feed with their announcers and then maybe TNT with some. Is it convoluted or is this just a reach on part of NCAA? Money grab, with having all these networks. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Now, I don't think it is, and here's the reason why. Because it gives you a chance to watch pretty much every game that is going to be going on as it's happening live. And this is something, it's actually really nice to be able to do that. And here's the easy way. I learned this a couple years ago, Greg. If you watch the graphics at the top and the bottom, and they're showing you games in progress and which of the four networks that game may be on.
Okay.
And you'll see a score go by, and you'll see, like, Villanova's having a tough time with New Orleans for some reason.
Okay.
Well, you're going to jump over and watch Villanova and New Orleans, although you figure Villanova's going to win. But bottom line is you're going to see that and then make the move because they do tell you what network, which of the four networks the game is on. So keep an eye on the graphics at the top and the bottom of the screen, and it helps negotiate things a little bit better and helps you make some good decisions because, like I say, they'll show you the score, and then, it's the kind of thing where it's like, whoa, that's a game I should be watching.
Yeah.
And so you go ahead and make the change in your channel. So that's the way, I watched it here the last couple of years. I think you'll enjoy it. And I think it's a good thing, too, because, it used to be that you would at most be able to see two games. At once. And now you can see everything in the field of 64. And to me, that's just a big plus.
Well, here again, I think the play-in games begin in earnest tomorrow. We had mentioned the fact that Mount St. Mary's will play, who is it? New Orleans, I think it is. The Privateers to open up that part of it.
It's being played in Dayton.
Yeah, in Dayton. So you'll have a chance to watch basically basketball from here until April the 3rd, I believe, is the championship game, and I got to take a look at that schedule again. But anyhow, if you love basketball, college basketball, well, this is the time that, matter of fact, I understand guys actually go have surgery this time of year just so they can sit at home, maybe sit on a cold bag of corn or peas. Now, why would they do that, Dave? Well, okay, it's a certain kind of surgery they're having.
Yeah, I have those, and I've not had surgery done to them, so
me neither.
I won't be employing that method.
Well, I remember my wife saying, well, maybe it was time for me to go do that, and I said, there's no way. I saw your brother-in-law. He's like a little lost puppy. walking around the house, Now I'm not getting mine taken off. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be neutered. Well, anyhow, NCAA basketball, the big dance is underway. And, of course, if you'd like to make a prediction, you can always email us at gbanks9170@comcast.net. That's gbanks9170@comcast.net. Or hit us up on the Air Network Facebook page if you'd like to weigh in tonight. And we also have the Skype number that you can call us. All you have to do is make a contact to Greg Banks 3. That's Greg Banks 3. Dave, I know we could run this into the ground when it comes to basketball, but we have so much more to cover tonight. So let's talk about the Pirates. Let's talk about the Penguins. Let's talk about Penn State. Let's talk about high school wrestling. We'll do all that coming up next here on Monday Night Sports Talk. Stick around, everybody. Well, sad to say, Dave, it's not going as we rehearsed.
Yeah, right.
Everything is sparring tonight at the same time here on Monday Night Sports Talk. But hey, we're here, we're live, and it's all good. Dave Shannon live in Altoona, Greg Banks in the studio in Huntington. I told you I was having some computer problems. Well, there you go. It just started getting all crazy.
Hey, I have a suggestion for where we go next, Greg, because I think there's some local athletes that, pulled off state championships that need to be talked about, and we need to give them the kind of time that they deserve for the amount of work they put in.
I agree. And first off and foremost, Huntington finished 6th in the team race in high school wrestling in AA. Jacob Oliver, by the way, became a 2-time state champion after defeating Dalton Group 9-2 in the finals. There was no question in that match, Dave. Of course, Jake had just a great match. With that win, Chad State sends us information saying that he has become Huntington's all-time leader in that category with a record of 159-13. That's his career record, by the way. And Jake will now wrestle in the prestigious Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic on March 25th against Jake Aller from, by the way, who is a 2-time Minnesota state champion, and he's committed to the Gophers next season. Meanwhile, Jacob Oliver heading to Edinburgh to become a member of the Fighting Scots. So congratulations to Jake Oliver, to all the people from District 6 who had just great warrior-like seasons in high school wrestling. We didn't want to forget about him, Dave. But Jake, by the way, they had a parade for he and also I believe it was Landon Fisher and who was it, Seth Bainey, the 3 top finishers for Huntington who came back to town. It was Saturday evening around 8:30 with, of course, a police escort. Oh, they had the fire trucks out. It's small-town America, and we welcomed home our heroes. So congratulations to Jake. By the way, as it was mentioned, he'll be heading to Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic. That used to be the old Dapper Dan Wrestling tournament. Well, we've only had one other wrestler, to the best of my knowledge, that ever wrestled in that, and I believe that was Chad's friend Shea, Jason Shea, who I believe was a state champion back in the 80s for Huntington. So we've had 3 state champions. Henry Green, the year I graduated, 1972. Jason Shea winning 1 time in the 80s, and now Jake Oliver winning twice consecutive years, 2-time state champion from Huntington, and we salute him here on Monday Night Sports Talk. What a fantastic season.
Jake.
Yeah, what a fantastic season for him. Round ball-wise, Dave, I really can't talk much about that because all of our teams, except, I should say, Juniata Valley Lady Hornets are still in it. At this point, I believe the boys from Juniata Valley are still in it. Of course, Huntington people are now out. And we just found out all those games that were, of course, scheduled for tomorrow because of the inclement weather have now been postponed to, I believe, Thursday. So that means the PIAA has a mess on their hands because they're going to try to get in, 17 or 18 games on Thursday night. Now, that means somebody from some high school is going to be playing, probably close to 10 o'clock start, because I don't believe they're allowed to start later than that. And believe me, I wouldn't want that to be my team. What do you think?
Well, no, it's, weather does, and you wouldn't think it would,
oh, man,
when you think of weather affecting things, you think about football games and baseball games and things that are played outdoors. But here you have this wonderful indoor sport of basketball. Mm-hmm. And when you get into this situation, it's going to have a very negative effect on things.
And it has.
And it really creates so many problems because not only do you, you have these kinds of scheduling problems, then you've already made the arrangements to have the Giants Center for the championship games. Mm-hmm. You've paid the money, and you have to be there. And the PIAA has to have those teams there and ready to go to play the state championships.
Right. Now, if we get these games in, and I have no idea how they'll schedule those over this weekend, you got to remember the state finals is coming up next Saturday, the 25th. I believe is that date, or the 25th is the state championship series, the 4th, 24th, and 25th. So they got to get these games in, and
they're going
to be all backed up, and that's a result of the weather that's coming in. Wouldn't that be something if we only got 2 inches of snow?
I think I'm going to stick pretty much. I made a forecast there on the Air Network on the Greg Banks Show.
Yes, you did.
Earlier today.
Right.
And I'm going to stick with my 10-inch forecast for the Huntington area.
You said 6 to 10, I believe it was, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I'm going to go with a high end on that and call it 10.
Okay. And I think we'll be okay. But, hey, best of luck to all those remaining high school basketball teams. Congratulations to all the wrestlers. We did want to acknowledge them and give them a little bit of time. Well, Dave, let's see. Let's head to Bradenton, Florida, to see what the Pirates have been doing. Now, I understand there have been some trades and some, that we got rid of some guys, and I don't even know for the life of me, some of these people, you can tell me who they are. Shortstop prospect Kevin Newman, he had no chance of making the Pirates opening day roster this season. That didn't sour his first spring major league camp. Now, after Jordy, what was his name? Jordy Nelson? Not Nelson. What was the player's name? Mercer. I believe this kid was anticipated to take over a job for Mercer or somebody on that squad, and it's just not going to happen because I think they're going to send him down. Is basically what I'm hearing. Kingman, there was Newman, and about 6 other players who now have left camp and just are not going to get the opportunity to play with the bigs this year. Meanwhile, you do know McCutcheon is away at the World Baseball Classic. I did see that Gung came back and played over the weekend. Did you watch any of those games from Bradenton or any of the Pirate games?
No, I thought Gung was still in South Korea.
No, I thought that they said, well, you're right. I could be wrong. They were probably showing video and mentioning the fact that he has that 8-month suspension, and that's what it was, Dave. They were showing video. And they also said that they were putting him on, what is that restricted roster? Obviously, they make room, get him off the roster for those 8 months that he might be. He's not going to be incarcerated, but they won't be able to use him, so he will be restricted. And I guess that allows somebody else to take his roster spot. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's basically, and, I just hope the young man ends up, getting back on track.
Right.
And, that's a huge one to me. He's a big part of the team.
Oh, he is.
He was a great pickup. He showed his ability, went through the knee injury, came back last year, and to end up having, this be such a problem for him, gee whiz, it's tough to see. So all the best to Jung Ho Gung, and hopefully he's able to, get back on the straight and narrow, so to speak.
Yeah, and as far as Kingman, Newman, and any of the other players that have been cut from spring training, it doesn't matter. They're going to be placed, at their respected minor league ball club.
Kingham and Holmes are at Indianapolis. Yeah. And Cody Dixon, Tyler Epler, and Jin-Dae Zhang is a catcher. He's been sent for his minor league assignment. Right. And Kevin Newman also sent down. So those are the players sent down. So, it's no big deal. It's just part of spring training.
Right.
And they take a look and they see what they get out of the guys. It was kind of interesting yesterday. The other thing that you have to do, though, as spring training goes along, you have to make an impact if you're a young player.
Oh, yeah.
And you were in the minors and you got invited to the major league camp. You have to make an impact as soon as you can, because we got to get you figure out if you need to have, if we should continue to look at you, or we need to get you with your minor league team so you can get ready for that season to help you improve.
Right.
So you have to make that impact really quick.
Oh, there's no doubt.
When you're those young guys. So that's what's going on. Pirates suffered a loss today, but you know what? They're 12-5.
I know. I was surprised when I saw that record. That was kind of cool. Of course, it's spring training again.
But nonetheless, you got your regular starters out there for, I think yesterday, some of those guys played for about 6 innings. And, so as time goes on, your starters play more and more.
Right.
And then you come down to those final cuts, and maybe you give those guys, the young guys, another look and give them a reasonable amount of playing time. But bottom line is, the Pirates doing well despite the fact that they're missing some of their key players, as you mentioned, McCutchen, and then also you have on the Dominican team, you have Marte and Polanco.
That's right.
Both playing for the Dominican Republic.
Hey, well, good news today. Glasnow was on the hill for the Buccos in their game, and even though I believe
bad start, though.
It was a bad start, but you know what was good for him? They didn't allow him to throw any junk. I mean, no curveball. He was working on his fastball, and that's something that obviously, Clint says he has to work on, and he felt pretty good about it after of course, the game and the innings that he pitched today. He understands that's what he needs work on, so I got to give the guy credit. I still say, and I didn't see the final 5 starters yet, but he's got to be included in that, isn't he, Dave? Or is he still on the outside?
It'll depend on his future starts here in spring training, because you look at this one, and statistically and, in other ways, it was just horrible. 2 2/3 innings.
Okay.
And he gave up 5 runs in 2 2/3 innings.
Right.
And, the bottom line is he could have got out of a 4-run third inning.
Yeah, okay.
If Josh Bell would have caught a line drive that was hit right at him.
Yeah.
So, that's not all, even though he gave up that batch of runs, 5 runs on 6 hits in 2 2/3.
Right.
Still, the bottom line is, the guys behind you have to help you out a little bit too. And, once that happened, when Josh wasn't able to handle that, shot that was hit right at him.
Yeah.
It was a low line drive, but it was something he probably should have been able to handle.
That, of course, is a part of the support team. He needs his support when he's out on the mound, and obviously that lends to his confidence factor. You know what I mean? That you have guys behind you that are willing to, and able, I should say, to perform. Hey, listen, I just wanted to touch on something before we move on to hockey. We were talking about wrestling, and I wanted to acknowledge Penn State wrestlers as they head to the Nationals this week. Penn State heading into the national tournament this weekend, looking to repeat as national champions, and they have 8 wrestlers, according to Chad State, seeded 5th or higher, including a pair of number 1 seeds in Jason Nolf and Zane Rutherford. These guys are number 1 seeds heading into the Nationals. And I want to say it's in Oklahoma, but, Dave, I know they move this around, and it could be in Indianapolis. I didn't check it, but I know that if I watch national television over the weekend, I'll be able to see these matches, even if they're delayed. I got to believe, though, somebody's going to air these things live. No,
ESPN will have the championship matches live.
Good.
They do the national championship matches live.
Wow.
And have done so the last quite a few years.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, you'll be able to catch that. So you'll be able to, and hopefully the Penn State wrestlers make it through the early rounds to make it to those championship bouts.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed at the Big Ten that they only brought 2 to 3 guys through that, maybe 4 tops, but I think we were expecting probably anywhere from maybe 6 to 8 guys that would have come out on top there. But, hey, nonetheless, they're still one of the best programs in the country, if not the best country, as far as the best program. And we'll find out certainly this weekend, because they could rack up a lot of points too, just getting through this tournament. So we'll see how that fares for them. Speaking of the Penguins, and I know they probably have a game tonight. Man, are they still on that Canadian swing now? It seems like they've been in Canada for a whole week. I mean, they have,
as a matter of fact. It started last Wednesday at Winnipeg.
Wow, okay. And they've been pretty successful, though, but it's been a battle, correct?
Well, the Edmonton game went into overtime, and the reason, that's Edmonton is a good team.
Yeah.
And Edmonton, you got Connor McDavid there, and he showed what he can do in the game against the Penguins on Friday night.
Right.
And eventually that went to a shootout, and Phil Kessel ended up winning the game for the Penguins by scoring the second shootout goal in that contest. So the thing then at Vancouver, they end up with a 3-0 win. But one of the best games for Ryan Miller, the former goalie of the Buffalo Sabres, and a silver medalist with the USA team in the Olympics a while back. Outstanding performance by him in the game that the Penguins played at Vancouver, but an even better performance by the guy at the other end of the ice, and that was Matt Murray, as he shut out Vancouver, and the Penguins won that 3-0.
Yeah.
So tonight at Calgary, Wednesday at Philly to take on the Flyers, then on Friday back home to take on the Devils, and then a Sunday afternoon game against the Florida Panthers at 1 o'clock. So that's your upcoming week for the Penguins, who continue to do really well despite all of the injuries, and they just keep cropping up time after time. Yeah. And Penguins are, just working their way through it. And, and it's not always the stars either.
Oh, man, how about Gensel and some of those guys? Those I don't want to call them baby Penguins anymore because, they're seriously Penguins. Those guys were called up. They're doing their job, and it seems like they're having a lot of fun doing it. Then today I heard that the Penguins recalled forward Josh Archibald from down in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and he's got 14 goals, 13 assists with the baby Penguins this season. He's coming up. He scored his first 2 goals back in February at Arizona. So, they just reload, Dave. Their minor league system is so good.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is amazing. Here's something else that's amazing. Despite all these injuries, the Pittsburgh Penguins, with a game in hand, which means they could jump over Washington with a win in the game tonight. I don't know if the Capitals are playing. The Washington Capitals, which everybody's, the Capitals, blah, 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 blah. The Capitals have 95 points.
How are the Islanders
with a record of
there?
44-17 with 7 overtime points.
Yeah.
The Penguins are at 94 points, only 1 behind the Washington Capitals, and the Capitals have played 68 games. The Penguins have played 67. Yeah. The Penguins could be the best team in the NHL with a win tonight. So that's, it says a lot about these young guys that they have. And, man, if they were drawing up a blueprint as to how to run your minor league system, the Pittsburgh Penguins would have to be the ones to write the book.
There's no doubt.
And, yeah.
Wow, because like I said, they just continue to reload. Somebody goes down, it seems like they have an answer for that, and of course then these guys come up, and obviously we still got the kid. The kid is like playing in a fabulous manner as well, and he's getting all the help from his line. And so we're making this sort of like playoff run here very shortly, if not already, Dave. And everything counts as far as I'm concerned. They're going to be there. It's just a matter of, how close it looks in the playoffs. And we're not quite there yet.
Well, I would like to see them leapfrog the Capitals. And the reason why is I think one of the toughest teams and one of the toughest matchups for the Penguins is going to be against the Columbus Blue Jackets. And right now, with the standings where they are, that would be their first-round opponent. Boy, I'll tell you what, that's the kind of thing where they could get knocked out by the Columbus Blue Jackets in the first round. Just about anybody else, I feel pretty confident in the Penguins, but that's been a tough road for them to hoe over the course of the regular season. So I'd like to avoid the Blue Jackets if I can in the first round. We'll see what happens. And I'm sure the Penguins more than well aware of that and are going to do everything they can to make sure they leapfrog over the Caps and manage to stay there till the end of the season and avoid having to take on the Columbus Blue Jackets. So
yeah, because they're always tough, man. Those guys are always tough. Hey, I wanted to make mention of the Steelers, of course. There's some speculation. I keep seeing in the news these rumors that this might be Coach Tomlin's last year. I don't know what that says about his contract because I've not looked at it yet. And it may not be his decision after all. These are just rumors, again, being bandied about the league. But it would seem to me, Dave, and maybe to you too, that his tenure seems to maybe be close to the end. What do you think?
Boy, I don't know. It is going to certainly depend upon, how he performs again. He certainly has to. That situation where they went to the high school game and carried on. Just, lots of un-Steeler-like things going on around Mike Tomlin. And I still think that, you still have the Rooney family involved.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that they want to continue that tradition that they have there as far as the Steelers go. Now, I did see a report here that he was actually in a list of the top coaches in the NFL. He's in the top 5 now.
Really?
He's listed in the top 5.
And that makes sense. Yeah, it does.
Yeah. The results of the upcoming season, it's what have you done for me lately, as it is in most sports. There's a handful of people that I see as, long time start your career, end your career.
Yeah.
Sidney Crosby will end his career
as
in Pittsburgh.
Right.
Yeah,
that's almost a given.
Ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Yeah, and, and probably, obviously he did leave to go to James Harrison. I believe he went to Miami, retired, came back. He's now with the Steelers for another year or two. And so he'll get to remain as a Steeler till his last game. And I don't believe he'll come out of retirement. And Big Ben, obviously, he'll be a Steeler for life until it's time for him to go. Let me ask you this. So much speculation on this Tony Romo thing, free agency for Tony Romo, back and forth, Jerry Jones even getting involved, and at one time saying he wouldn't trade Tony, but then there were rumors being bandied about like wildfire that there were teams speculating to bring him in, if not as their backup quarterback, maybe as their quarterback this year. I mean, it seems to be like with Osweiler leaving, who was it, Houston, and some of the other moves that have been made, it seems likely that this guy could show up as somebody's quarterback, maybe the 49ers, because Kaepernick's out of there. He'll soon to be leaving. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on Tony Romo? Is it time to give it up? I mean, he's talking to people in Denver. He's talking to people in Houston. The Dallas Cowboys don't seem to want to give him up right now. They're willing to let him ride the bench, behind Prescott. But then it's a money matter that Jones could free up some cash and get rid of this guy.
Yeah. Well, if I were Tony, if I feel good physically, and what do I want my quote unquote epitaph to be when I leave the NFL?
Right.
I don't want it to be the guy that won all these games with the Dallas Cowboys, but never won the big game.
Oh yeah.
And the final years of his career were spent on the bench in Dallas. If it were me, I'd want to get out there and be playing for a team that's going to contend. And I'll tell you what, the Houston Texans, and you consider weak that
that South Division or whatever that division
South
is.
Division is. That, it's like I think Houston has every real possibility of getting back to the playoffs again. And if they have Tony Romo at the helm, some big-time stuff. I'll tell you, the Steelers have a lot to worry about here. They've lost Lawrence Timmons to the Miami Dolphins and Marcus Wheaton to the Chicago Bears. Dante Hightower of the New England Patriots making a visit to Pittsburgh.
And
could that happen?
Yeah. Did we say Darrelle Revis might show up too?
Right after they pick him up off the streets of the South Side.
That ain't going to help us. And then Terrell Pryor's looking for a job too. He wants $15 million. Hey, go fly a kite, Terrell. You're probably going to end up staying in Cleveland now. So, anyhow, Dave Shannon, thank you, man. It was a little rough ride, but hey, I was happy to ride with you tonight, buddy. Good interview with Rob Krimmel. We wish those guys the best of luck. And Dave, by the way, joining me on the Greg Banks Show Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. Every once in a while, check out at least the weather forecast, Dave. I think you're going to be right on that tonight around 3 o'clock.
All right.
Thank you, Dave Shannon. Thanks for listening to Monday Night Sports Talk. We'll do it again next Monday at 7 p.m. See you then.
Good night, everyone.